Hello and welcome to Akamai TV. My name is Tara Bartley and I am joined today by Akamai's very own Prenil Kottayankandy. How'd I do?
You did pretty well.
All right, welcome to the program, Prenil.
Thank you.
I'm happy to have you here. So
Thanks.
Prenil, you are part of our solution engineering team.
That's right.
And for me personally, you're wizard-like, right? You know both our products and our technology as well as our customers.
Yeah, fortunate to be in the role where we talk to customers every day, we talk about technologies every day. So it's good to see both the technical aspects and the business aspects and the challenges for customers.
Right.
Definitely
So today we're going to talk about DevOps and APIs. APIs have been around for a very long time, but why is everybody in media talking about APIs today?
Sure. Yeah, APIs rightfully have been around for a really long time. The reason you suddenly start hearing so much about APIs lately is primarily because there's been a big focus on this side of DevOps increasingly, right? And it's actually been a constant journey, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It started off with people who had more tolerance for like errors or issues. So if you look at the kind of businesses which adopted DevOps, it's mostly advertising-based businesses which started off first. The subscription models, they were a little more hesitant, and eventually they started adopting it. And once the industry started seeing that there's a lot of benefits, you can move much faster, you can make more money, you can be more agile, people started adopting it, and that's how you see like everybody talking about DevOps lately.
Okay, that makes sense. So what do you think is a sweet spot between managing tech, processes, and people that's needed to accomplish major change?
I think it's more of a philosophy, right? It's a mindset change from traditionally what you're used to adopting this. So it's no longer just about like hiring a few DevOps engineers or just following certain tools and processes. Everything needs to be aligned, which includes the complete organization, the different teams that are involved, right? Everybody needs to adopt this mindset so you can say, I need to move fast, I need to be more agile, I need to approach the whole technologies and the tools and the processes with it.
And adopting new philosophies, I mean, change is just difficult in any organization, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And it is a really big change.
Yeah, especially when you're not very tolerant and you don't have a lot of margin for error, it becomes really, really important at that point.
That makes sense. So we've talked about process and technology. What kind of person is best for working on this kind of major transformation?
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting question, because I would say the most important trait is adaptability, right? If I take you back like 4 years from now, say 2013, 2014 timeframe, people were talking about like, hey, I need everything to be exposed in APIs, right? Then we had APIs come up and people started saying, well, I don't really need just the APIs, I need CLI on top of it, right? I need to be easily able to use those APIs without having to be a developer myself. Fast forward to 2 years after that, people started saying, I need orchestration engines like Terraform, for instance, right? It's not just API, it's not just CLI, it's a new complete model like Terraform. So that will consistently keep on evolving, and the idea is you need somebody who can adapt to these constantly changing landscape and technologies and tools.
Okay. And it's interesting what you say, so it's not necessarily technologists that are working in the DevOps world or with APIs, right? It can be less technical people that are working in this environment.
It could be, yeah. So DevOps started off by saying, I have these developers who can code really well.
Right.
I have the ops folks, and now I need to get both of those together so that they're working hand in hand. It led to the evolution of DevOps, where people can code, they can manage infrastructures, and they can manage the whole infrastructure. So that led to, if you've heard the term SRE, the site reliability engineers, making sure everything is up and running. Right. So yes, it's a combination of all of it.
So what's a common concern that you see broadcasters and OTT companies talking about today?
A big change or a big challenge with change is making sure that every component of what you have. So if I look at a typical OTT workflow, you have everything from your ingest side to the delivery side to your apps, connected TVs, websites, making sure that all of it and the partners you interact with are all on the same page, right? Which is why it's a mindset shift, it's a philosophy that you need to adopt and make sure the partners, the people you're working with, the vendors, they all need to be in sync with it. That's a big challenge in the industry. There's also like security teams who have a totally different agenda and traditionally move much slower.
Right.
They need to adopt the same philosophy so they can move faster along with your other teams.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the most underestimated element of integrating new solutions?
Yeah, I would say it's more about like figuring out how do you get to the best use of what you're using, right? So it's easy to get started with some tools and just get going, but to make sure it aligns with the vision of what you're trying to build, it falls in line with all the tools that you're trying to use, making sure that it's available, there is the reliability component associated with it. Sometimes when you jump into new products and new solutions, it may look shiny at first, but you want to also make sure that it's fairly reliable and robust and mature before actually getting to it.
And how do our customers test when they're embracing new solutions and new technologies? Is that an underestimated aspect of it, the testing side?
We do see that from time to time. With the DevOps philosophy, people want to move fast, and it's all about change and rapid testing and trying out new things, right? So sometimes it does get overlooked because you don't have a defined methodology. You're saying, let me build it as part of the pipeline. But increasingly, I think organizations are becoming more and more aware, and they're saying, okay, let's build this as part of the pipeline, right? Let's try to do it for every single release, not just like once a month, but do it multiple times every day.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we understand the benefits of DevOps being ease of integration and more control. What are the hidden risks or perhaps the downside of working in a DevOps world?
Yeah, one thing I would say is the biggest thing probably is the risk associated with it. Mm-hmm. Right? So as a big organization, you do want to balance the fact that you have paying subscribers in this case, and you also want to move fast and more agile, right? So you generally have a very high tolerance of risk. Mm-hmm. You don't want to make too many changes to break things up, right? So I would say the biggest challenge is around the risk and the fact that you need to be prepared for failure. The idea of fail, but fail fast.
Right.
Right. That is something which companies a lot of times play around with, because like when you're a small startup, it's much more easy to fail, and people don't realize if your subscribers are advertising or if your customers are advertising based, it's okay if you're down for a little bit. Mm-hmm. But when somebody's paying for the product, it's a lot more challenging, and you need to strike that right balance between being fast while also being robust and stable.
Right.
And that's where you need your partners and vendors to adopt the same philosophy.
And are you enabling your employees more in a DevOps world? Is that associated with some of the risks?
Absolutely, yeah. So you have more control, right? Like everybody can make changes,
right,
which again leads to somebody can mess things up, right? How do you again grant access to the right people to be able to use these APIs? Because right now with the DevOps world, you have many people working on the same systems. There are simultaneous code updates happening, right? So there are your surface area, if you will, is a lot broader than before.
Right. So I would imagine in that environment, though, you would have to have quite a bit of checks and balances if employees are so much more empowered and really have their fingers on the pulse.
That is very true, yeah. And a lot of companies are talking about like how do you build a more streamlined workflow process, right, while trying to be nimble.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's very important.
Right.
And when you bring security to the mix, that's a totally different ball game, right? Because that is paramount to every organization. And we want to make sure, okay, you want to move fast, but you don't want to introduce new vulnerabilities into your infrastructure.
Right. So what do you think is coming next for the DevOps world?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I've had the privilege to go around the show and also talk to a lot of clients and partners. And I think two key trends definitely stand out. The one is security within DevOps, what they call as SecDevOps or DevSecOps, mm-hmm. the adoption of DevOps methodology within the security teams so that they can move faster and be more nimble.
Okay.
The other big trend which we definitely are seeing is the incorporation of more data, right? Using the data, using AI and machine learning to be more reliable, to be more robust, to be able to be more proactive. So instead of figuring out issues after they happen, finding out anomalies in advance and using that to plug the holes before they're exposed. So it's definitely an exciting time to be in this life cycle.
And I think it's fair to say that Akamai has really come up to speed in the past couple of years in terms of its DevOps tools and forums and communications and whatnot for our customers to help them along this journey. Wouldn't you agree with that?
For sure, yeah. I would say it's one of the top focuses from mm-hmm. everybody in the company, right? Like we want to make sure our customers have the right tools and processes from the Akamai side. So every single product that we come up with right now is API first, right? So even we are consumers of our own APIs, mm-hmm. right? And we also started investing in tools.
As we should be.
We should be, of course.
Of
yeah.
course, right.
And we've also started investing in tools and processes to make sure it's easier to consume those APIs. Even if you're not a traditional developer, if you're just like an ops background, you still have tools like command line interfaces or other plugins or Docker containers to be able to leverage those APIs in a more successful manner.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but if our viewers want to learn more, I think it's devops.akamai.com. Does that sound right?
Or developer.akamai.com/devops.
All right. Either one should work.
That's right.
I think we're just about out of time. Thank you so much for your time today, Prenil. It was
Thanks for
really
having me.
informative and interesting. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be back with Akamai TV soon.